Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of E-Coffee with Experts. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. And on today's show, I have with me Cliff Rohde. Cliff is the CEO and founder of GoCloud, a full-service digital marketing and web development agency headquartered in upstate New York. He built his first website in 1996 and his first WordPress website in 2011. Cliff has been helping small, medium, and nonprofits to thrive online since 2013. Cliff, thanks for being here. Welcome to the show.
Matt, it is absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, no problem. So, Cliff, I know you've been building and tinkering with websites for quite some time. In 1996, not to date myself, but that was my first year out of high school. So that's a long time to be building since going back the days of tables, HTML tables, and I don't even think CSS existed back then. And WordPress, has really changed the game with it powering like 33% of the internet now. And I'm a WordPress user myself. I started off with Joomla, and then realized that WordPress is way easier, and I've focused on that as well as you since the last I don't know how many years, like since 2.7, WordPress 2.7. I remember when 3.0 came out, but it seems to be that WordPress is a really, I think it's Matt Mullenweg's decided he wanted to democratize the internet with WordPress. I mean, of course, I think he's worth $500 million now by doing that. But it really has, for small businesses especially, enabled them to get online. It's lowered the barrier to entry, would you say? Would that be a fair statement? Yeah.
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, it's not the only one that's out there, of course.
But no, of course not.
I think especially initially, WordPress did a really great job of making it pretty easy for people to get online.
Absolutely. So when it comes to small business, are there any WordPress themes that you recommend, or various themes that fit for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to say that I am probably a Divi fanboy.
Sure.
It's I feel like that product from Elegant Themes is just a really terrific product, and it has developed so much and so well over the last 10 years or so, or 8 years. I kind of feel like Divi is sort of where WordPress ought to be. I know that sounds very fanboyish. I mean, they're not paying me money to talk about their theme, but it's pretty intuitive to use. I will say, so clients come to me in all different shapes and forms and experiences and histories online. So it's not unusual that clients will be onboarded and they have a particular theme that's not Divi and they want to continue using that, and that's fine too. But if I'm building a site from scratch, usually that is the theme I will go to.
Yeah. What is it that you like about Divi? I mean, you mentioned one thing, intuitiveness. Is there specific child themes that are easy to launch for different types of businesses?
I mean, it's easy enough to have a child theme in Divi, that's for sure. What I like about Divi is, or one of the things I like about it anyway, is that it's got it really starts with a blank slate, to my mind. It's just a blank canvas. So, but it's pretty easy to create, some, I don't know, this is going to sound really vain, some masterpieces with it. I don't know that I've created any
sophisticated websites,
but I've seen some really, and made some really nice looking websites starting from zero. So I love that, as compared to sort of the way WordPress started, right? With themes that you got a theme that gave the site its look and feel. It's like, I want to do this, I got to do this. And it offers you so much more flexibility now. And there are certainly other page builders out there that I've used too. I don't like any of them as much as I like Divi.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So the flexibility of it and the intuitiveness of it, are there any other things that you would say?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, and this, and maybe this is a springboard for a larger conversation, or we should put this away, because one of the other really powerful parts of it is that it is so widely used, and it's created by a dedicated group of developers who are responsive. It's got hundreds of thousands of users, and they're clearly, to my mind, committed to the product and to their customers as well. So, you can find, I'm sure, some sort of theme out there that has all sorts of bells and whistles. But if it's not supported in that way, then it's probably a mistake to use.
Yeah. And the flexibility of it in regards to, that you can start with a blank canvas and build something and add on to it or go places with it. And that the community has been built around it, and the developer support. Those are all things that are important for sure. And you find your clients are easily able to use it in regards to making changes to their pages?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, and that kind of goes beyond even WordPress. The extent to which clients want to get involved in their websites. I think that whether you're using WordPress with or without Divi, if you're using Squarespace or Wix or Weebly or Webflow or whatever it's going to be, there's a learning curve for everybody. And some of these products, and this is sort of it's going to sound like a complaint, but I think it's really just a reflection of kind of where we are today, which is that, these tools that we use to put our presence online are just amazingly sophisticated and can do tremendous things. But with that comes a bit of complexity, and, you need to find people, whether it's you in-house or you hire someone to do this, but who knows how to do this stuff. And, it's not always the easiest thing. Do my clients like Divi? I don't know. A lot of times they don't really care, honestly, because they want me to do stuff on the website.
Yeah.
Do they have any more complaints about Divi than they do about any other platform? Absolutely not. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So Divi is definitely
I was going to say that I'm sure that if there is a WordPress purist listening to me say this about Divi, they're going to say, "Oh my God, this guy is giving everybody such bad advice," right? Because we should be building the site from scratch with our own CSS and all that stuff. And I personally think that can work for certain projects. Absolutely,
it can.
For small business people, they don't want that. They don't need that, and they don't want it either.
No, they don't need it, and they don't want it. There is a place for frameworks like Divi, or let's be frank, Beaver Builder or Elementor or Visual Composer. There is, yes, there are people who are like everything
right off the
scratch. But
there is a shortcoming, of course. And actually interesting that the word is shortcoming, which is because of the short codes, right? Yeah. So anytime you're in a page builder, whether it's Divi or any of the other ones you just mentioned, it's going to have its own set of short codes that if you ever want to change out of that platform, well, then it gets to be an issue. If your site's big, if your site's not so big, it's not as big of a hassle.
Yeah. You basically need to redesign your website. So that's something to think about in regards to a page builder, making sure you like it. What about the integration? WP Engine just bought, I don't know how I feel about this, to be frank with you. I'm kind of got mixed emotions about WP Engine buying all of the plugins from, they bought Advanced Custom Fields and from Delicious Brain, and he's going to focus on
that happen. Yeah.
And he's a fellow Canadian out in Nova Scotia. I don't know how I feel about that, but we don't necessarily need to talk about it. But the point I'm trying to make is ACF, Advanced Custom Fields, seems to be quite a popular plugin, and maybe we'll talk about it. Like, what about its integration with Divi is what I'm trying to ask in order to build more sophisticated, I say, complex websites.
Yeah. Well, Divi accommodates custom post types and fields. And
is there an integration, a direct integration with?
I've never found it to be a beautiful thing. But there are workarounds. So I feel like some of that stuff, coming right out of the box. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. There are I don't know, a client that I have wanted to build a directory of people who perform a particular function for the organization. And it didn't make sense to add those as posts, and because that's just not what they were. So it really made sense to create some sort of custom post type, right? For these particular fields. So the ability to display that information on a Divi website, it's doable. But again, you need kind of like workarounds. So it's not, and there's probably a way to do some of that with the, just the native, not WooCommerce, but with the WordPress blocks and stuff with Gutenberg. But I personally have never really loved that block editor. And I think it's still in development mode to my mind. And that's what I was saying before, like, I'm not a big fan of Gutenberg, but so where, that's what I was saying before, where I think that kind of Divi is at a place where I think WordPress ought to be, because there are Gutenberg-like functionalities within Divi, but they're better. They're just better.
Yeah.
But it's like Divi is not going to supplant WordPress. I mean, they would have to, I don't know what they'd have to do, but.
Well, no, they're not.
So not every.
Do you think that Gutenberg and Matt Mullenweg's plan, like, to be what's the word? Full site editing. He's trying to make WordPress. I think he's trying to make WordPress like Wix or full site editing, and page builders seem to have already filled that space. So I don't know why he's trying to interrupt and disrupt that. Like, do you think that Gutenberg will ever take over and put Divi out of business?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that the Divi people worry about that a little bit. Yeah. It's something that I have thought about, like, would WordPress or Automatic buy elegant themes and say, this is the way, or any of the other builders. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like, the goal there was, like you're saying, to make it somehow a little bit easier to build a nice looking website. But I don't really think it makes it much easier.
No, Gutenberg does not. It makes it harder. I've tried to use it. It's terrible. Sorry, Matt. So
now you can see, like, the color of my beard, right? That, maybe you're asking the wrong guy this question.
I don't think so. No, I mean, I'm not that young. I'm not a spring chicken either. But I'm pretty active in WordPress Facebook groups, and nobody's jumping on the Gutenberg bandwagon, at least from what I mean. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are people out there maybe there's companies who are embracing building Gutenberg blocks and this, that, and the other thing. But like, even for Ultimate Beaver, Ultimate Beaver is put on by Brainstorm Force, whoever they are, and they have modules for Beaver Builder. They have modules for Elementor. I'm not sure if they have stuff for Divi, but they've literally converted all those modules into Gutenberg blocks. And I've tried using them, but they're not as good as it's not as intuitive as Elementor, Divi, and the other one is Beaver Builder that I've used. So be interesting to see. So clients like using Divi. That's awesome. What about, for instance, what are your favorite SEO plugins for WordPress? Like, what's your preferred one? I know there's tons.
Yeah, well, I mean, my go-to is Yoast. And although, I think it's a great plugin in many respects. I sometimes feel like, so I should just say, as an aside for a second. So part of my business is the website design, of course, but then another substantial part of my business as well is hosting and maintaining websites. So, like, it's like GoCloud offers basically a managed WordPress environment.
Oh yeah,
but it's it's different from some of the ones that you may get at, like, a GoDaddy or wherever else, SiteGround, etc. I'm just happy to be naming them. There's no reason I wouldn't name other hosts who have a managed service, but it's like, I kind of feel like my managed service is much more managed. It's like I'm actually me, or one of my colleagues that is actually looking at the website and trying to figure out, well, should we be updating this plugin right now or not? And so that was a long way of getting to the Yoast question. Is I feel like sometimes, and maybe not so bad recently, but I feel like they've pushed out changes to the plugin before it was really ready to be pushed out. So they'd be pretty quick to release, a subsequent version. And so I find that a little bit annoying, actually. I would much rather have fewer iterations, but
that are stable.
That each one is more stable. Exactly. So, I mean, I've also used all-in-one SEO. Who bought now that one? I think is owned.
That was bought by Syed. Sorry, I don't know his name. Forgive me for the guy. The guy who started WP Beginner. He owns lots of. WordPress has made him a very wealthy person. Syed Balki. He bought all-in-one SEO.
Yeah.
He owns Often Monster.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of them. Well, I was going to say that. Let's not lose track of talking about SEO, but
no, of course.
Just a thought I had about Gutenberg too is, as long as Gutenberg kind of continues and WordPress continues to be, kind of an open platform where other developers can bring pretty cool stuff to the table, I think it'll be okay. It'll weather the Gutenberg storm.
Yeah, I agree with you. If they have enough of a customer base, I just don't think they're going to catch up. I don't think Gutenberg's going to be able to disrupt. It's like somebody trying to disrupt Google. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to disrupt Google. It's not going to happen. Like, maybe 3,000 years from now, but they've got such an amazing product. And I mean, of course, the comparison between Divi and Google is kind of, there's a lot more market share. There's bigger beats.
Yeah, of course.
Right? I mean, you have Divi, you have Elementor, you have Beaver Builder, you have WP, Visual Composer. So, but the point I'm trying to make is they have enough loyalty amongst their base that I don't really think that, unless they stop being innovative, they've innovated far. They've got too much of a head start. Just like Google had way huge head start on Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft ignored the internet. They laughed at it. They have way too much of a head start. So yeah. So what is it that you like about Yoast as compared to all-in-one SEO, or have you dabbled with rank math a bit?
I have not. I think that, but I'd love to hear about it. But I mean, it's easy to use, and I think that the interface is great. I think the guidance that it provides, right within the plugin. I mean, it's a little bloaty, maybe, but it's also good advice, especially for people who don't know a lot about building websites and SEO.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will often tell my clients who want to do this on their own, give them a little bit of training and say, well, here, you got your page up. Look at what Yoast SEO is telling you about this page and get everything to green, and you'll be in a better space than you were before then.
Absolutely.
So that's very helpful.
Yeah. Are there any, sorry, I'm just thinking here, trying to conduct my thoughts. So besides Yoast, are there any other SEO plugins?
Yeah, I was saying, I mean, I do use all-in-one SEO on occasion. I mean, there are some that I've used for kind of very particular purposes. Like if it's an e-commerce store, finding some that do a better job at creating schema for products and stuff. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember what the names of those are. I mean, Yoast has a product in that regard. And they're just, there are others that are in the repository.
For generating schema.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
helpful. I mean, obviously SEO itself is a very broad term, right?
Oh, of course. There's on page, off page, technical. Yeah. There's,
I mean, you could arguably
aspects within those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Core Web Vitals
could be considered. Yeah, exactly. All that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, so speaking of caching, do you bother with caching anymore? Some people say if you get a good enough host, you don't even need to bother using a caching plugin.
Yeah, so I tend to. I mean, it depends on the website, but say for what I like to do, especially is get my sites up on Cloudflare. That does a really terrific job. Caching, security, performance, etc. for the Divi sites that I manage, I've generally taken out the caching plugins, extra caching plugins, because Divi provides some caching.
Okay.
Which is a relatively recent development within Divi. Over the last 6 months or so, I think I don't know that I have my dates exactly right, but they made speed a particular purpose that they were striving for. And so, refashioned what was under the hood. And so the sites are much faster than they used to be. So that with Cloudflare, I don't tend to drill down crazily. And it's so my sites are not, YouTube or eBay or something like that.
No,
obviously you want to be building fast sites for your customers, but
they're under 100 pages is what I'm hearing you say. Yeah. They're under 100 pages is what I think what you're trying to say. They're not
sure, and also not visited as much. Right. Yeah. So most small scale customers, they typically have a shared hosting thing going on. They don't need to be blazing fast. That's going to sound like a heresy, I suppose, right? But I'm going to say that, most small clients, they don't have the money to pay you to pay the service to get the fastest website possible.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that you always need the fastest website possible.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Plumber might not, if a page takes 10 seconds to load, that's crazy. But like if we're talking, milliseconds, or even we're talking, I don't know. I get what you're saying.
If the page takes
not everybody needs Lamborghini
performance. Instead of a second.
But if you're getting a vast amount of traffic and you're an e-commerce website, I guess it would be a different conversation, because every second in site load costs a certain amount of money, which has been documented. But that's I understand the point you're trying to make, though. It's like a plumber doesn't need a Lamborghini speed website. It's okay if he has a Mustang speed website.
No, it needs to.
Doesn't want a Pinto speed website, but he wants.
No, of course not. No, it's
nobody does.
It's got to be mobile friendly. It's got to be secure. It's got to be easy to look at. It's got to be easy to maneuver through, and you get people to the contact page, or you have a clickable link to the phone, and you're pretty good.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a WordPress website hacked? Or ever had one hacked?
I have not had I'll knock wood on that one.
Yeah.
I have not had one of my sites hacked. Security is a super important issue.
Yeah.
For me, as it should be for any host or developer. But I have helped people recover from a hack. Yes.
Yeah. It's not fun, is it?
No. It's not fun.
Yeah. I created a course a long time ago, more than 10 years ago, called WPSecurityLockdown.com.
Okay.
Launched on the Warrior Forum, and it did terrible. It got product of the day on JVZoo. But one thing I found is that people don't want to pay for WordPress security knowledge. They think of they think of it after the fact. They don't think about WordPress security until they get hacked, and then they want to go finding and looking for a solution. So I dropped the product, even though I think I made about 31 videos. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that there are ways to secure WordPress so that it doesn't get hacked, to harden it. Are there any tips you can share
sure.
from your experience in that regard?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, it's a lot of the hacks happen on low-hanging fruit. People who have really put no security precautions or measures in place to keep their site, away from the bad guys and gals and bots. Yeah. So, I definitely use security plugins. I tend to use WordFence more than any others. One of the things I like about them too is recently, they've changed the way or made it possible to do a better job at securing login, putting two-factor on a website to log in.
Yeah, that's important, isn't it?
It is. I mean, especially for administrators. I mean, it's one of the conversations I have with my clients, who by and large are not always the most technologically sophisticated, and they don't want to be, and they don't
want to be.
Then they don't have to be. They, if they're a lawyer or a plumber or whatever they are, a pest control person, they don't necessarily care about a website. They care about, they are subject matter experts on what they do.
Absolutely.
But talking with them about a WordPress website where, especially there are some like organizations where they might have multiple administrators because different people are doing different things, is like, every admin on a WordPress site is a super admin.
Is another,
and that's a real security.
Yeah, it's another point of failure, for the lack of a better word. It's another point of hackability. I'm trying to.
It is a potential weakness right there. That's for sure.
Thank you. Potential weakness. More administrators you have, the more of a weakness it has.
Yeah.
And, so how do you bring up that conversation? Because I use Bitwarden for my password management. I have like 1,500 passwords in there.
Yeah.
That has two-factor authentication.
Yep.
And every single website that is possible that offers it, I use two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
So, how do you have that conversation with your clients, for maybe other agency owners, because that's predominantly our audience, to encourage them? Because, I talked to this one business owner. She was a florist. I don't have time for stupid two-factor password management. I just use the same password for everything. And I'm just like,
right.
Oh my gosh, are you gotta be kidding
me? Right. It's like the dog's
I'm not going to use a stupid two-factor authentication. It's just an extra step. I'm like, well, but it's 5 minutes to set up and less than 30 seconds to use once it is set up. And yet you're adding such a level of hardening to your site. The only way someone's getting in there, if they do brute force attack your password and hack it, they got to then have your phone. I mean, good luck with that. Everybody's married to their phones. So do you get resistance from them, or is it a matter of education in talking to them about what needs to be done?
That's well said, Matt. It is a matter of education, and we have a conversation about it, about the risks.
Yeah.
I had one nonprofit client. This was actually pretty recently. I've been maintaining their site for years, but they hadn't really asked me to do anything, to check in and stuff. So they had turnover over time, and they had just had like all these people who, when I finally came back in, because they had some other stuff they needed to do, I was like, we have like 13 administrators on this website. And
wow,
are these people all even still around? It was like, here's why it's not a good idea to do that. So I think people are receptive to that.
I guess that's education, telling them like you need to have a process, an internal process, HR process for when people are added and removed. Like I was the marketing director of a car dealership, and we had a WordPress website based on like this company developed a platform for car dealers for car dealer hosting. But we had limited. I was the one that was the main person, of course, because of the position that I had and my knowledge of the stuff. But we very much maintained control over the churn rate in car dealerships. Just so you know, it's huge, both for sales managers and
for the like salespeople.
Salespeople and sales managers. Churn rate's huge. I had to have a document and a list of what to do when someone was let go, and the GM would literally phone me on my phone. He'd have the person in the office that he's going to fire, and he would literally just pick up the phone and say, "Do it." I felt bad, but hey, what am I supposed to do? I got to do my job. So lock you out of WordPress, lock you out of the CRM, lock you out of your email, lock you out of everything, and they love you. It is what it is.
That's important.
You wouldn't be getting, So I guess you just talked about 13 different administrators. They would be a good idea to have a process.
Right. No, and each one being a super admin, where they can change other administrators' stuff. That is a big amount of power to have.
Is there? But I know there's WordPress plugins where it will create another level, another permissions level. WP role editor is one of them. I think those things are for admin management, for like scaling down the ABAP, like not being able to change it. I would do that personally, like 100%. In order to mitigate the ability or the risk of someone being able to delete me as a user, who's the main administrator, or delete other administrators, or delete a WordPress plugin, or delete a WordPress theme, or pages, or because if you don't like to think about that, a bad actor, a small business fires an employee, or in my case, let's say they fire the manager. He goes in, logs in, and deletes all the inventory. Right. Next thing you know, all these 404 errors and the amount of business that could be lost. It's just, it's incredible.
It is. Yeah. The mayhem that can be done.
Yeah.
And so you were asking about some other security, steps I take. This is one that I really enjoy doing, which is via Cloudflare. Yeah. So you can, even in the free plans at Cloudflare, and I'm a big fan of Cloudflare as well. They also are not paying me to say any of this, but although they did have an outage just the other day, so it took down a couple of my sites. But that's another issue that's hard for people to understand. But systems will fail on occasion, even the big ones. Yep. But so there's a way, you can set up firewall rules in Cloudflare. And so because most of my clients are US clients, most of them, to the extent that they have people working on their website, the people are in the United States as well. You can put a block on the WP login page in Cloudflare so that nobody in the country can get in. Now, obviously, there are bad actors in the United States as well. But if you look at I find when I look at my statistics on the websites I manage and I go into Cloudflare and it's telling me all the security great things that they did for me, they are mostly blocking attempts from countries outside the United States.
Yeah. You can Google a list of the countries that are bad actors for hacking that are known for it. And there's a list of about 10 to 15 countries. Yeah. And in I've been using Cloudflare since they came out, like in the very beginning, before people even really knew about them. So I'm fully aware of what you're talking about. And I'm a huge fan of Cloudflare. I use it on all my sites, use it to manage my DNS, everything. Yep. Everything. I use it of course you can't use it without managing the DNS. That's the whole point of it. But anyway, it's phenomenal what you can do in regard, like you just said, create page rules and their web application firewalls. They have one specifically for WordPress. The WordPress rules just around WordPress for being able to do that. And there's a plugin I use for CRM management, Groundhog, for marketing automation and CRM. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but in the setup of it, it uses cron jobs. There's PHP files in the root of the root folder of the website that it generates. And so I create a page rule to not cache those because you don't want those to be cached. Sure. So that's another one of the benefits of using Cloudflare with WordPress. So, but yeah, I think the number one thing for people, you've hit it on the head for getting hacked, is brute force attacks and password management. You have an easy password. Like people think that when it comes to passwords that it's a human being that you have to try and keep your password from, but they don't realize it's not. It's the robots. Like they can go through the alphabet and do a brute force attack and keep trying to log in. Now, of course, there's things you can do to stop those things from happening, and hiding your login page, obfuscation, installing a brute force attack plugin that's, they can't do that. It'll lock them out after 5 attempts and so on and so forth. But the point I'm trying to make, even with all that, the number one way of defense is a strong password. And people have to know that. Like, that's why we talk about two-step authentication, because at least if you have a weak password, that two-step authentication gives you another layer of, and I think that's what it's about with WordPress security, if you would agree, or feel free to disagree, is the layers of security, starting with strong passwords, starting with brute force, starting with a good hosting.
Yeah. And, I think that WordFence has kind of gotten a bad rap somehow as like being, insecure, which I just think is not justified. And it's
I don't think so either.
People's trying to, emphasize convenience over security, probably.
Yeah.
Another tip, I guess, that I would have is, you probably do this too, Matt, but for usernames, like I also use a password manager. I use LastPass, but so I will have LastPass generate a random username too,
and that's the username for the admin. Yep.
And so, obviously, you never want to have an admin named admin.
No.
It boggles my mind that I still find websites where that's going on.
That is crazy. That's crazy.
But, it's all about, I think with security, there's, there are steps that the bad guys and the bad bots take, and you try to cut them off at every step, make it harder for them at every step.
Make it harder. Block those countries, hide your login page. There's one plugin that allows you to create a secret phrase. That's the only way you can access the login page. I'm not sure if WordFence does that or not, because I haven't used it. But yeah, you can create like a string.
Sure.
So about that username, you can create a string for that replaces your wplogin.php. And every time they try and go to wplogin.php, it redirects them to the homepage or wherever you want.
Oh, nice.
You could redirect them to a sorry suckers, you can't get in page. But yeah, and the only way to get there is to access that string. Now, it's not always ideal for some websites that the site needs to. Anyway, it's not always ideal to do that. That's all I'm trying to say.
Oh, sure. No, well, there's always, right. So there's that tension between convenience and security.
Yeah.
And some things are going to be so inconvenient that they're not worth doing anymore. Right. You could limit the login page to just a particular IP address, right?
Yeah.
You wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
That would stop everybody.
That would stop everybody.
That would stop everybody. If your IP address ever gets changed, then you have to spend a little bit of time getting it back up.
Yeah. Most residential homeowners only have don't have a static IP. I don't have a static IP. I have a dynamic IP.
Mine probably changes every 8 months or something, but
I have no idea when
2 years. It changes every now and again, though.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to pay as a business to get a static IP. That's for sure. At least where I'm from. What are some more common issues you see with WordPress websites?
More common issues.
Yeah, the most common issues you see.
So what kind of website are we talking about? Are we talking about one
small business? For small business.
Come to me. Small
business. That's small business who you predominantly deal with. Not e-commerce, but
Yeah. A lot of times I think a common thread that goes through many of my clients when they're first kind of coming to me and I'm onboarding them.
Yeah.
Is that they really just kind of, set it and forgot it sort of thing.
Okay.
It's not unusual that if someone comes to me for help, we'll take a look at the website. It's like, oh, nobody was updating your plugins over the last 2 years, or
oh wow,
no one was doing whatever.
Yeah.
So, we find all sorts of issues like that. They're totally correctable. But I think that's an issue. And, I think, again, that goes to the notion that the small business person wants to be focused on their business, not on their website. Yeah. It's not like malintent or anything. It's just like,
no,
somebody we have a website. And, that's not really particular to WordPress, I suppose. I do, you were talking before about adding plugins to perform one function to another. And, I would say an approach that I have, and I think this is a common approach among WordPress developers, but is, have the absolute minimum number of plugins.
Absolutely.
at the same time, I really don't like to create all sorts of custom code for a website because, my client might decide next month that they want to move on. They want to do something else. They want to hire somebody else. I mean, I'm lucky that doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. Yeah. I feel like part of my job is to help future-proof them as well.
Okay.
I have one client, and I just revamped their website within this year, and it was a WordPress website, and it was it Divi? It might have been Divi, but the person had set it up in such a bizarre way, and my client said, "Oh yeah, they told us that they set it up so that we could not do anything on the website." I was like, "What?
Wow.
That just seemed like unethical to me."
That is unethical.
So while I do believe, yes, reducing the number of plugins is important. Trying not to load up a website with code, but yeah, I mean, you have to I try to make a website that is at least approachable from the client's perspective. If they wanted to learn, they could, and then they could do stuff if they wanted to.
Yeah, if they want to. That's some great advice. Hey, is there one big takeaway you want listeners to get from this episode?
So let's see. I would say that, it's doable. I guess I feel that way about WordPress. We were talking before, we even led the conversation with talking about how hard it is sometimes with WordPress. Yeah. And it's eminently, it's doable anyway. Yeah. And I guess, I find, and maybe you find this too sometimes, Matt, that clients that you work with, they're a little bit fearful of technology generally.
Yeah, so they're scared they're going to blow it up
as well. Like, yeah, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I guess I really try. Part of my job, I feel like, is like talking people down. It's like, it's going to be okay. We're going to fix this, and you can have access if you want. If you want to do all of this, absolutely, we'll provide some training. You can do it. So, I would say that, I think it's rare these days. When I first started doing this, there were still people who kind of questioned whether they even needed a website. I think we're well beyond that point.
We're way beyond that.
But people are still fearful about doing it themselves, I think. And, I think people maybe have heard chatter in the background about WordPress. It's hard, it's insecure, it's et cetera. But I think that's hooey, really.
I agree with you.
You don't have to do WordPress, but you can, for sure. It's a good solution.
Yeah. I know of one such individual who has that mentality and refuses to use it because it's one of the most hacked platforms on the internet, in his opinion. Now, it could be, but it's also one of the most used platforms.
But it's the most used
33% of the internet.
Yeah.
There's no other.
Of course, it's a target as a consequence.
Yeah, exactly. It's a target as a consequence. But as you and I have said, if there are certain things you do to secure it and harden it, you can, I don't know if the word, forgive me, the right word is mitigate, but you can lessen the ability for people to be able to do those things.
Absolutely.
And it really is a fantastic tool. As you shared with Divi, you can make some pretty amazing sites. If you add in advanced custom fields and custom post types, there's really nothing you can do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and obviously not just with Divi, but you can make some pretty incredible sites with WordPress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It is my go-to.
Yeah, mine too. Absolutely. Hey, what is Cliff, where's, if our listeners wanted to connect with you, where can they do that?
Sure. So I have a website, strangely enough, that is goatcloud.com. Okay. And that is goat like the barnyard animal.
Yeah.
And my email address is cliff@goatcloud.com. Okay. You can certainly email me. They can call if they want it.
Yeah. Are you on Twitter or LinkedIn personally?
LinkedIn, I mean, yeah, we didn't even talk about social media. I guess it wasn't really the focus of the conversation.
No.
I try to avoid social media, honestly, as much as I can, but on LinkedIn, I am there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So
social is kind of a necessary evil.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Emphasis on the evil, maybe on the necessary.
Well, hey, Cliff, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, it's been a fun conversation, Matt.
Yeah.
Hope we can do it again one day. Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely. Well, there's so many things we could talk about in the area of WordPress and even digital marketing that we'll definitely do that.
Sounds great.
You have a great day.
Yep, you too. Thank you.